Okay, so I'm on the next one. I think we're on number 4 or something like that. I shared a little bit about my experience of my abortion and how it affected me, and how the last video I said how the Lord came out of his way to a little white church in the middle of nowhere to show me that I needed to repent of murder. And so I did that day. But then after that, so I'll tell you what happened after that. This extreme shame came over me. There's an enemy of our soul, and he used it to torment me. And I was tormented for months after that. Like, I'm a murderer. That's what I kept on thinking. It was just constant. I'm a murderer. The Lord forgave me. But I couldn't forgive myself. It was like digging up an old wound. But it needed to heal. And the Lord showed me that later. He goes, when somebody breaks something, there's a proper way of it being put back together and healed. And if it heals on its own and you didn't do anything to put it back together, or something about a broken bone he was showing me, you have to re-break it so that it can heal properly. And that's what it was like. He needed that wound to open up because it wasn't mended. It wasn't healed. It was just like putting a band-aid on it, but it wasn't dealt with. He loves me too much to leave me in that, and that any way that the enemy could try to use that to torment me. So months go by after that experience at the church. And then I was carrying this weight of shame on me. And one night, this is awesome. I was in between awake and asleep, it felt like. And all of a sudden, all around me, there was brightness. There was no shadow. Everything was vibrant. The sky was so blue. The grass was so green. There were giant sunflowers. I'll never forget that. I have a tattoo on my hand to remind me of those sunflowers I saw in heaven. Or maybe it wasn't heaven, but it was like a paradise outside of heaven. And all of a sudden I'm looking, and there's this river. The water was so clear. It was absolutely clear, like I could drink out of it. I would be willing to drink out of that river. But I look across the river, and there's 2 girls, young girls, probably 7 years old, maybe 8, and one sitting drawing on a drawing, and the other one's behind her with like a ginger brown hair. I remember the color of their hair. The one sitting had like golden brown hair, and the one standing braiding her hair had like ginger brown hair. And they were just sitting there in their own little world, and I was like, that's super cute. And then I heard splashing, and I looked down, and there was Jesus, and he was in the water in the river playing with the fish. And he looked up, and he didn't say anything. He just looked at me. And he smiled. And when he smiled, I knew. I just knew. And as soon as I knew, I heard giggling, and she was already running across the river. Because he had me name my child. Her name's Gabriella. My Gabby. And she ran over, giggling. And she grabbed my face with both hands and looked me. Oh, why is this so hard? Because it was so real. She looked at me, but I remember her facial features, and she looks like my other kids. She looks a lot like her brother, Jason, but she has the lightness of her hair more closer to her brother, Robert. But then she also had big, beautiful eyes like her sister, Dynasty, with big lashes. Oh, I'm remembering it in detail. Anyways, she grabbed my face, and she looked me in my eyes with serious look. And she said, I forgive you, Mama. And that's all I needed. And then I felt like 10 million pounds just lift off of me. And then I felt shaking because I had been crying, and I came back to myself, I guess you could say. I was like in a spiritual place. And my husband at the time was like, what is going on? He was kind of worried because I was crying and shaking. And I woke up like, I just saw her. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I just saw her daughter. And then I just went on about what she looked like and what she did. And he didn't believe me at the time, but he ended up believing me later when he came to know Jesus. So, from that point on, the enemy could no longer torment me with that. But then it put this urgency in me to tell people the truth. To tell people that aborting a baby is murder. But if you have aborted because you were deceived or you were forced or something happened that made you feel like you couldn't handle motherhood, I want you to know. I know how painful it is, and we push it aside and we go on our life, and some people even become drug addicts because the shame is there. There was a wound put in your soul when that happened. That day when you murdered your child for whatever reason, by your own or others. I'm not trying to condemn you. I'm saying it was murder. Whether by you or by somebody forcing you, whatever it is. The blood's on them too. You can be healed. Our God is gracious. The Lord is so gracious. He's willing to heal you, and it doesn't matter how long ago it was or how it happened or why. He already knew it was going to happen, and he is willing to forgive. And for you people that are in charge of aborting these babies and you are deceived, his redemption power is for you too. And for the wicked that don't care and think that it's just a way to get money, I pray for you as well. Because there is a truth that rings loud and clear, is that we do not wage war against flesh and blood, but against powers of darkness. Powers, principalities, rulers of darkness, wickedness in high places. There's something working in the spirit. So even the Lord doesn't condemn his humans. A lot of times, we're just puppets. And if we're not sold out to Christ, we can be used for darkness. But Jesus is willing to redeem. Turn from your wicked way. So I'm going to address this now. In the next video, I will actually, because I'm already almost 10 minutes in. I'll leave it at that. The Lord is ever merciful, and he's always willing. He went out of his way to heal me. I'm nobody. I'm just a mom. I'm just a woman that's been so flawed, and I've done such horrible, rebellious things, but he saw me and my willingness to try to know him, and he wouldn't leave me. in my fallen state that was headed straight for hell. Anyways, I'll stop there, and I have one more video, and I think that that's probably where I'm gonna end. So I'll see you on the next vlog.